I'm currently 5 months postpartum, and up until now, my cardio has been biking and some moderate metcons. I walk regularly, but every time I've tried short runs, my shins hurt when I'm running. Do you have any recommendations to prevent this from happening? We'll be diving into this and so much more in today's Q&A episode. We are all cozy in a new spot because Joelle's not here. But I think I prefer this better. So if you guys are watching it, let us know what you think of this setup, even though Josh is going to be building out. I don't know. What are you doing? We
I
don't
don't
know.
know. This is I like this spot. It's a nice cozy little deal, but it's just if you look around, it's so jumbled. You can't tell, but we're surrounded by a bunch of wires and lights and
Can't really leave it like this down here.
no, we could do something like you said in the corner, but I got to figure out where to put that table.
Forever evolving the podcast setup, but
Just keep rotating.
throw back to when it was in my parents' garage and we would do it in like 30-degree weather with no heat, and it was an uninsulated garage, and we would literally sit out there with like a box between us. So we've come
A
a long
foam
way.
box to stop the echoes. So if you've been here since then, thank you.
We've come quite the way, but let's dive in. Joelle's not here. She's traveling this week. We will miss her, but you got us. So, to answer this question from Genesis, she asked about postpartum and running, and we had another question also about shin splints, so I'll kind of tackle them both with this. But the biggest thing, and one of the biggest reasons why you might be experiencing shin splints, is because you're doing too much too soon when it comes to progressing your run. So you might be doing too much mileage at a time. You might be doing too much mileage per week. It's just an indicator that something is happening way too fast for your body to be able to catch up. Sometimes it can be related to your shoes. I know this was the other question, was like, my husband thinks I need to get new shoes to avoid shin splints. So having the right running shoes and having a pair of shoes that doesn't have a ton of miles on it, even if you weren't running in those shoes before, like if you just wore those shoes for walking and they're, over a year old, and you put 2, 3, 400 miles on them already, they're not going to feel that good when you start running. So you need to make sure you have shoes that support your runs and that are not worn out. And then also just making sure you're not doing too much. So a lot of people start running and they'll run a mile, or even like, if you've been doing a lot of cardio, which it sounds like you have, Genesis, you've got a good endurance baseline. So maybe you're doing even more than just a couple miles. I would scale it back. And a good rule of thumb for just running in general and how often you should be increasing that mileage per week is the 10% rule. So increase no more than 10% of your weekly mileage per week and build up very slowly that way. That way, you give your body time to adapt, because running is a high impact sport. It can be hard on our joints, but you're doing all the things with strength training. You have a good baseline. So I would ease in, check out our running programs in the app if you need something to follow that ensures you're progressing in the right way. But that's what I would recommend. And she also mentioned Wes is absolutely adorable and she's happy everyone is healthy. So thank you. Anything to add to that, sir?
You're the running queen.
Okay. Not well. I'm getting back to it. All right. We had a couple more from last week that we're going to cruise through that we didn't get to because they came in after we recorded. But Kaylee asked us, what are the health issues associated with low fiber intake? I have a friend on the carnivore diet who has determined through his own research, quote unquote, that fiber is not necessary. Take it away, fiber king.
So fiber is what's called a prebiotic. Essentially, different sources of fiber are going to feed different species of gut microbiota in your whole digestive tract, your whole gut. So if we're not consuming any fiber, the carnivore junkies have discussed the concept that your gut microbiota can adapt and feed on the meat. That being said, there are just boatloads of studies regarding fiber when it comes to overall health. I had a post about it yesterday, even just reducing cardiovascular risk by significant margins because your microbiota is truly this superhero within your body. It's not just about digestion, it's not just about your gut. Your gut is connected to so many different areas. Your microbiota can create vitamins, it can create hormones. It just regulates all these things. So when you're feeling off, it typically starts with our gut. And there's connections. Obviously, the gut-brain axis. So gut dysfunctions leading to neurodegenerative disorders down the road, autoimmune issues. So we've talked about specifically with carnivore, but the short term effects and quote unquote benefits that we feel when we do transition to a fad diet like this. And more often than not, in the conclusion we can feel confident in talking about is a lot of times it's because you're cutting out the processed stuff. Like you're the highly processed foods you're no longer consuming because you're stuck on this strict protocol, which is why you're feeling way better. Like you're cutting back on the crap, which you could do with a balanced diet containing tons of fiber. So I am very much anti no fiber. I know that some of these bigger names, these bigger influencers have talked about when they're pushing their carnivore agenda, your body doesn't need fiber. And I'm not even going to get into it because I completely discredit those statements. Your body needs it. Your gut microbiota need it. And there's just overwhelming evidence that suggests that. So fuel your body the right way. Starts with the gut, and you need fiber to do so.
Danielle asked us, she said, I've been listening to the last couple podcasts. I'm now questioning whether or not I'm effectively training. I work out at home. I follow Build, which I love. I have dumbbells up to 60 pounds, a bar that they can attach to for deadlift, shoulder press, things like that. I have been trying to push myself for a while because weight loss has always been my focus since lifting the last couple of years and then having my last child 2.5 years ago. I want to get stronger. My point in all that to say is I'm definitely not training to failure, maybe not even near failure. I understand increasing time under tension, slowing things down, etc. since I'm limited on weight available, but should I be going to the gym at least for lower body days to really get the most of my workouts? I'm using my heaviest dumbbells, for example, on deadlifts, which is a total of 120 pounds. So to sum it up, I would say, do you have to go to the gym? No. If you can go to the gym and if you do feel like you are just leaving a lot on the table as far as what you're capable of, I think try it out. I think even if you went there 1 or 2 times per week and did the rest of your workouts at home, if you can do like kind of split both that way, I think that would be a great thing to try. But I would say if you're concerned that you're not lifting close to failure, you probably aren't. Like you would know if you were lifting close to failure, you would be seeing progress, you'd be getting stronger, even with limited weights. Like you would be seeing changes physique wise, assuming nutrition is in the right place. So that's my take. Maybe you have a different take, Josh.
No, I agree. If that's something that you want to do and it's feasible, like you're not forcing it in to a puzzle piece that just doesn't fit and trying to get to the gym, then I would go for that because you have more equipment available, you have more weight available, you can clearly progress more significantly. That being said, like, can you stay at home and keep training and actually see progress and force progressive overload to happen? Of course. It's going to be harder. Like you're going to be going higher reps that will lead to more cumulative fatigue, which is something we try to limit when we are going through that progressive overload protocol. That's why a lot of times you'll see us talking about slightly lower reps. We say lower reps, but like 10 or less when it comes to lower body, because you can hit a higher intensity while minimizing overall fatigue. If you're doing like 15, 20, 25 reps for lower body, that's a big ask of your nervous system. So while it may not be optimal, it is still possible. You might just have to play with rest days and stacking rest days, multiple after that lower body day to let your CNS kind of recover a little bit better. But long story short, you absolutely need to be at a minimum 4 reps away from absolute failure. So couldn't do another rep with good form. That's failure, like true failure. And many people are very far from that. The fact that you're questioning that says you probably are. You're probably closer to an RPE of 2 or 3, which means you've got 7 or 8 reps left before failure. Even when we talk about higher reps on lower body day, so like a leg extension, for example, is very easy to stop well short just because you're feeling a burn. So we're going higher reps. I just did 15 when you probably could have done 25 if the weight was light enough. So just because it hurts doesn't mean you're actually close to failure. Just because you're winded on something like on a squat you're not necessarily that close to muscular failure, which is the critical element. I'm not saying go to failure, but being within that range, that 1 to 4 reps short of that range, we're not seeing optimal progress without that.
This kind of answers. I got a VIP question from my best friend Sarah. She texted me this morning. She was asking us, she hears about the importance of lifting heavy, especially as an aging woman, which we all know. Like, even if
Aging
you,
woman, slow it down, Sarah.
well, we are aging. We're getting older, Josh. What did I say in that previous episode? We're approaching middle age, right?
I'm following that Brian Johnson protocol. I'm aging backwards, baby.
No, but she had a very similar question. She, hears about the importance of lifting heavy. What qualifies as lifting heavy? And she went on to say, like, is there scientifically a goal of poundage compared to your body weight? And I think this is just a very common question, but also like a confusion point for women, especially, but even men too. Like, lifting heavy is so relative. Like, there is no like 100 pounds is heavy. Like 100 pounds may be super heavy to someone where they can't even lift it, and 100 pounds might be like a feather to another person. So heavy is relative to you and relative to your body and what you're capable of at this point in your life. And you kind of just explain that in more depth about going to true failure or just shy of failure to reap the benefits of hypertrophy and gaining that muscle mass and gaining that strength. So I just wanted to highlight Sarah's question because I think it can be very confusing, especially in this day of social media where you see all the things. So rep ranges, we know, don't really matter too much. It's really just about the intensity and being a few reps shy of true failure. So can you see progress doing 15, 20, 30 reps with lighter weights? Sure, but you're going to be doing like those higher reps to get to that point, and it might take much longer, like time wise. Like, a lot of people don't have time in the gym as it is, so that might not be the most optimal way. But if you are somebody who's limited, then that's what you got to do. Okay, on to today's thread of questions. This is from Lucy. She said, what's your opinion on regularly running on the roads? My mom had to have 2 hip replacements in her early 50s, and she was told running on the roads contributed to this. I know technology in running shoes has come a long way, but I wondered what your thoughts were on regular road running, on joint joint health, particularly in women. As we said, running is a high impact sport. There's going to be some wear and tear. How do we mitigate that? Strength training, making sure you're not just running, you're also getting as strong as possible. Obviously, shoe choice can definitely impact things a bit here. Is it going to be the end all be all solution? Probably not. Is running on the roads bad for you? Should it be something you're stressed about? I wouldn't say you should stress about it if you are strength training and if you are wearing proper shoes and if you're focusing on your running form. That's my take. I don't know. Have you heard anything else otherwise?
No, I
People
mean,
should
but
be.
think about how long this has been an either or. How many, hybrid training is relatively new. And not to say that nobody's ever done it, but it's always been typically, I just run, that's my exercise, or I lift, that's my exercise, and that's the end of it. If you are strengthening your connective tissue, if you're strengthening your muscles around those joints, you're going to have a bit more ability to absorb that impact, especially with the updated shoes, in the recent years. So if you're feeling it on a consistent basis, like if you go for a run and then the next day your ankles hurt and your knees hurt, like something's off. We got to do something about that. But if you're feeling pretty good, I wouldn't think too much about it. We just have to really focus on the recovery aspect. If you're running every day and you're not training as much, or maybe you're running every day and you're lifting and you're just not giving your body the ability to repair and recover, then obviously wear and tear over time, whether it was just training with weights, whether it is the runs, like we have to pay attention to those areas. So doing your mobility routines, optimizing range of motion, staying strong, doing all the things. Like my philosophy on training has shifted 180 degrees in the last decade. Like it's no longer about getting as big as possible, being shredded and, just looking like a poster board for bodybuilding. It's about optimal health. Like I want to perform well. I want to look great. I want to perform great. I want to feel great. I just want great across the board. Like I don't want to compromise in any area. And I think that well-rounded approach is something we're all seeing with the hybrid. hybrid form of training. And I think we're all going to benefit from it once we kind of master our specific protocols. How do we recover best? How do we perform best? What does the data say? Project B is going to help you with that all very significantly. We're coming up in Project B, guys.
You heard it here first. All right. Chelsea said, I'm in the process of trying to regulate my nervous system. Any tips? What about tips for getting into meditation? What are the proven benefits of cold exposure? Wondering if it'll be beneficial for someone like me with an out of whack nervous system.
It has done wonders for me. All the above, the cold exposure, the breathing exercises, the meditation, and really the underlying factor across all of those is learning how to activate our parasympathetic nervous system. So going from that fight or flight state with the sympathetic into the, the rest and recovery with the parasympathetic. A lot of times we just live in the sympathetic, and it feels like a glitch on the Aura ring. I know I brought it up. A lot of listeners have brought it up, and people in the audience have brought it up. Like, I'm constantly stressed. The only time that it says I'm not stressed is like when I'm sleeping on the couch all day. And I have noticed the last couple weeks a significant shift towards more relaxed states, which is very ironic considering the baby is 5 weeks old. But I've also kind of not that I'm taking a step back with work, but I am taking the time to completely unplug. The biggest shift I've made in the last couple of weeks, where I've seen this shift in my aura, is I don't eat with my phone. I don't wake up and check my phone. Like, we have to be entertained 24/7. The entire time we're awake, we need to be entertained. And we don't think we're being entertained, but we're just scrolling, we're seeking information. We're in an engaged state that is leading to additional stress. And it's not this horrible stress, but it's constant. So on top of everything you just said, I would also try to make it a point to remove your phone from everything that you do. If you're one of those people, which 99.9% of us are, don't wake up and check your phone. Like, that was the first thing I do. I check my Aura. How did I sleep? How do I feel? Well, how about I just dictate that myself, and then I'll reflect back on Aura later in the day to see if it actually aligned with that. To get back to the protocols you were asking about, adapting to the cold exposure, one of the big things there is, finding your breath. So, you're going to get really, really stressed. You're going to have that gasp when you drop into the plunge or, jump into the shower. But as quickly as you can, finding that breath and slowing things back down and re-engaging with the current moment. So being mindful and letting your body kind of soothe. There are some things that are going to shift after that. Like, you're going to have a nice dopamine hit for an extended period after, which is going to help you stay in a pretty relaxed state. Going into box breathing, that's something I'm actually using as a cool down in my workouts. So I end my workouts now with just 4 rounds of 4-second inhale, 4-second hold, 4-second exhale, 4-second hold. I'll just ride with that, and I'm just taking a minute at the end of my workouts to do that. And the meditation is just something I haven't loved doing it before bed recently. Like, if I get tired, I don't want to go through my, brush my teeth, wash my face, read my book, meditate. Like, it becomes a 25, 30-minute thing. So I found myself skipping it at the end of the day, and I'm trying to get that in more midday. So ideally, I'll do the box breathing post-workout, and then I'll go do a 10-minute, 20-minute meditation, and then I can check that box for the day. But again, that's about staying engaged, being present in the present moment, not getting lost in thoughts, and just training yourself to do that. We're reprogramming our brains, we're rewiring our brains, and it's helping us go from the sympathetic to the parasympathetic nervous system faster, just crossing over whichever one you need to be in at a certain time instead of just living in the sympathetic nervous system.
Yeah, I can fully attest the cold exposure has changed my life. I mean, if you've been a podcast listener, you've heard this story before. If you're newer, I'll just give you the cliff notes. But in the midst of our infertility journey before, I think I was doing cold exposure a little bit. Like, we did the plunges at my parents' house, but it wasn't a regular thing for me until I was having like a mental breakdown one day and just having a really crappy day, super stressed, super anxious. And he literally like forced me into the cold, not literally physically, but like told me, go take a cold shower. And yeah, like the second you step in, you gasp, like it literally takes your breath away. But the second I did that day, it truly opened my eyes to just how much that can just help me like come back down to earth from being so anxious and being so focused on, things I can't control and just having that high stress moment. And I did it during Cora's pregnancy. I did cold showers, and then we got the cold plunge here at this house, and I did it in between pregnancies, and then I just didn't, I wasn't in a place to continue it during Wes's pregnancy. I was honestly just stressed enough, and I didn't want to add that initial stress of it to my body. And I took my first cold shower again this week after kind of a harder day with Wes, which is going to happen in the newborn phase. I woke up and I was just feeling super emotional, and I was like, this is the day that I start this again. And I just did 1 minute and got back in after probably almost a year now, maybe like 8 months. And it truly just changes the trajectory of my day. Like, it impacts my day so much, just starting with that 1 minute of seemingly nothing. But I felt so much better afterwards and felt like I kind of just, again, brought myself back down to earth. So I am a huge advocate of it. Start slow. I think we have a couple like dedicated episodes to cold exposure if you scroll back or Google it. But yeah, fully recommend that. All right, moving on because we got a bunch more. Emily asked us, when following builds, would you recommend including the optional fifth lifting day or doing a cardio session in its place? This may be the only instance where I can get cardio in during the week, so I'm planning on cardio but wanted to hear your general recommendations. I say yes, add the cardio. If that's really the only time you can get that in, that I would rather you do that than a fifth day of lifting. You're getting more than enough with 4. Agree?
Yeah, that's your program.
Well, I'm just saying you can have an opinion on it.
I agree.
Jen asked us, number 1, 2 questions. What makes a good electrolyte? I know to look for sodium, magnesium, and potassium, but is there a ratio/amount of each that you should look for? The amount of each of those varies drastically from company to company. I know you guys recommend Element, but it's very expensive to get in Canada. Everything's expensive to get in Canada. I feel for you guys.
Expensive everywhere right now. Everything's expensive.
But
everywhere.
Even more so in Canada.
Yeah, for sure.
Many people recommended BioSteel, but the amounts of sodium, magnesium, and potassium are significantly lower. What are your recommendations? How much you need is going to be individual to you. It's going to be dependent on, what does your diet look like as a whole? Are you eating mostly whole foods? Do you have higher sodium from highly processed snacks? Like, what does your day-to-day nutrition look like? Step 1. Step 2, are you somebody who is sweating a lot and very active throughout the day? You live in a warmer climate. I'm going to assume probably not if you're in Canada. But, that impacts how much you need as well. And then obviously things like breastfeeding, pregnancy, your hydration needs are higher during those periods of time too. So your electrolyte needs also go up. So all of this to say, I really don't have like a recommended general range because it is super individual and it does depend mostly on what your diet looks like. So it's kind of hard to answer that.
It's also like Element and these companies popularize electrolytes. You could also just literally do some Himalayan sea salt and some water and have a banana. And then if you take your magnesium supplement at the end of the day, like, you're going to be fine. Timing, if you want to do a pre-workout a little bit, could be helpful. If you want to do it first thing in the morning, if you're not eating right away, it can help curb hunger. That's something I was doing when I was pushing intermittent fasting a bit further. Not late, but like 10 o'clock in the morning, and then that salt would help. So it does not have to be a stick of Element. It could just be, a shot of actual salt in your water and have a banana, so you're getting that balance.
Coach Kara, if you search the group, she answered this for someone else. She makes her own like electrolyte mix. She's one of our registered dietitians on our team. So if you search electrolytes, it might come up, but you can feel free to tag her or message her. Kara Mockler is her name. She has always made her own, and I trust her fully. So that's another option too. And then her second question was, any tips on how to not have sore hands or calluses when I'm deadlifting or doing hangs? I don't know if it's something that will eventually get better over time and I just have to stick it out, or am I doing something wrong? I think it gets better over time. I kind of always have some sort of callus where, like, on my hands, it just is part of being a lifter. It definitely used to be worse as a power lifter in the beginning of my journey. So I think it does get better over time, but it also kind of is just there. This is just my experience.
Yeah, your hands will adapt. That's just your muscles and your hands getting used to that. You could use lifting straps, but then you're compromising grip strength. So I wouldn't do that unless you're very anti-calluses. But if you do that, just make sure you put some grip strength exercises into your routine.
Yeah, the soreness will go away for sure. But the callus is kind of just part of the process.
It's a badge of honor.
It is. All right, Carly asked us what weight to use postpartum. I'm worried about pushing too hard too fast, but light weights feel so easy. Trying to find the happy medium. This is the golden question. I feel like it's also a very hard thing to answer because it is going to be different for everybody, and it's going to depend on, you know, what you were doing before, what your labor and birth experience was like, what your recovery has been like. So the slower, the better, in my opinion. Like, you can't really go too slow postpartum. You can go too fast postpartum, and that's what most people do. Just because your mind wants to do more doesn't necessarily mean your body is ready. But there's going to be signs that are going to happen if you're doing too much too soon. So you might experience, like, bleeding might start back up. You might experience just heaviness in your pelvic floor, things like that. Like, you'll know if you did too much too soon. It will be more than just like general soreness from lifting. And when that happens, you don't have to panic. You don't have to stress out about it. Just scale back, take a rest day. And next time, you know, okay, that was a little bit too much. I'm going to scale back for the next session and continue to progress slowly moving forward from there. Christine said, what are some of your favorite meals or foods to meal prep for the week? My weekly prep is feeling a little blah, and I'm looking for suggestions and ways to switch it up. I feel this, Christine. Has been feeling very blah for me. And I think when we get in these very busy seasons of, like, with work and also just where we're at with kids and stuff, it can get very monotonous, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. Like, sometimes when you're in a busier season of life, like, you need to lean on what you know works. However, I was actually thinking about this at 2 a.m. last night when I was breastfeeding Wes. I almost said Reese. That's Joelle's child.
That'd be weird.
But I was thinking about this last night. Like, I want to spice up, like, what we do too, because we eat very basic, we eat very simple. So we are kind of like a build your plate family. So think about how people feed their toddlers, and that's kind of how we eat. We build our plate with a protein, a carb source, a fat source, a fiber, and we make just various meals, like different bowls or salads, or just a plate that has these different components, rather than very intricate recipes, if that makes sense. So it's always worked for us. It's how we enjoy eating. It's very quick and efficient and just simple. So that's kind of like a little background info. I do have a ton of meals saved. If you go to my food highlight on Instagram, I have a little highlight bubble if you just want some ideas. But something I want to start doing, and Josh is probably going to laugh at me, but I want to do like kind of have each day of the week be something consistent each week, but switch up our plans. So
Absolutely not.
No, listen. So, like, Mondays we have
I know what you're saying.
chicken meatballs for dinner, meatball Monday. And, like, every week can be a different type of chicken meatball with maybe a different type of vegetable. And one week it's a rice bowl, the next week it's on a salad. Just having that protein source, like Taco Tuesday. We can have tacos every Tuesday and just switch up. Maybe we do shrimp tacos this Tuesday, and I don't know what other kind of tacos you do, but beef tacos next Tuesday. I just feel like that will make it a little bit more fun while keeping it very simple, but also giving us that variety that we crave, because the nutrient diversity is also very important here. So
yeah, we're not going to be doing that. If you want to meal prep in that way, that's fine. But
that's
we're
kind
going to
of
go
what
with,
I was thinking about, though. Like,
yeah, you
just
could do that
having
for
that
meal prep, but you're not saying, oh, next Tuesday it's going to be tacos again, or Thursday is always going to be burgers.
I think that's a fun way to keep it simple, though.
That's the opposite of fun. When you plan it out like that, that is the opposite of fun. It's what do you want to have for dinner tonight? Let's make it. It's going to be fresh. It's going to be delicious.
I feel like that's where I'm struggling. Like, that's what I don't like about how we're doing it right now.
Well, that's because things are so nuts. Like, we're not sitting down to, like, what do you want? I don't know. Okay, let me throw this together because it's.
That's what I'm saying, Josh. Is
That's not what you're saying. You're trying to put meals in a box. This day is this, and this day is this. If you want a meal prep, that's different. But dinner's the fun meal. So my spin on this is, yes, we get very boring when we get stuck in these ruts like this, and it's go, go, go all the time. But just taking the same thing and eating it in a new way. And that could be, let's say you've got chicken. So one day you're doing like a stir fry, or you're throwing whatever, vegetables on top of the chicken, on top of a bowl of rice. Or you actually do like a barbecue or teriyaki stir fry. You're changing that up instead of olive oil and some seasonings. Or what I've been doing the past couple days is making a sandwich with the chicken, putting peppers, onions, low sugar barbecue, and then that yogurt ranch. And I'm loving that right now. Like, I hate chicken. We've been kind of getting a nice variety in the way we do chicken lately, and I'm very much enjoying that. Like, it's boring, takes me 30 seconds to eat it, but it's like, oh, that was good, and that was different. I'm content. So in this simple phase of life, in this busy phase of life, you can do these tiny little things that completely change the meal with your standard. This is what we're always eating. Okay, we'll do something a little different with that same thing.
That's what I'm talking about. You're not picking up what I'm putting down.
You're trying to put them on specific days. I'm not doing that. That's what I'm not doing. We can switch up the way that we do certain things, but you're not telling me every Wednesday is going to be whatever it
You
is.
guys, I'm going to do it and just, he's going to roll with it and we're going to try it out and I'll report back. Anyway, all right. But yeah, if you want more just like food ideas, I have a ton saved to that food highlight bubble on my Instagram. Hannah asked, she said, I've been lifting for years and I want to start incorporating running for cardio. However, every time I run, this was the other shin splint question. So she says every time she runs, even a small distance, she gets shin splints and her husband thinks it could be her shoes. So in this situation, since it is like a short distance, it could be your shoes. It depends. I don't know if you're using like super old running shoes or if you're using shoes that are not meant for running, or if they are shoes you wear just on a daily basis. Like they probably have a lot of wear and tear on them, and it could be causing that. It could be a form issue. It's hard to say without seeing you run, but it could also just be even that short distance could be just too much too soon. So I don't know what you mean by a small distance, but I would even start with like our walk run program. It's called Begin in the app. You literally run for like a minute, I think, to start, and then you walk for a minute.
What about just
So
making sure you're warming up, like not going from
also warming
a
up.
cold
Yeah.
start to a straight run?
Yeah, I would say all of those things can definitely impact here, but definitely grab some, like, keep your running shoes just as your running shoes. Like, don't buy new shoes and wear them for everything. Like, you want to minimize the mileage you put on those shoes. And I know running shoes are expensive, but you'll get the most out of them by doing that. All right, anonymous question, tips for improving health with Hashimoto's. A loved one was recently diagnosed, and I know she is not good with the big rocks, which is her first step. However, fatigue is a real struggle. So, how to incorporate movement without overdoing it? Any tips to help move her mindset from weight loss to health promoting behaviors, because she likely will struggle with losing weight also. She works full-time in a stressful government job, is also on ADHD meds and antidepressants. I know I can't force someone to want to change, but also just trying to be as educated as possible to help her as much as I can.
Yeah, anytime you're dealing with autoimmune issues, like reducing stress, first and foremost, get that down. You right off the top, you said she works in a very stressful environment. So what can she do to manage that? She can't change the environment, she can't change the job. How can she improve her resilience to stress? So again, breathing exercises, doing those throughout the day. Meditation. I highly doubt she's going to get into cold exposure if she's not doing anything else. Like, that's not typically the first thing that you jump into. Could be beneficial. So therapy, anything like that. Just getting specific, individualized protocols in place that she will do on a consistent basis. I don't know if she said he or she will do on a.
I think it
Did she
was
say
like
she?
yeah.
Yeah, she'll do it on a consistent basis. From there, general movement, like you said, just getting out for, even if it's just a weekend hike or a weekend walk. Going out with the dogs or the kids, the family, whatever the situation is, just kind of instilling movement and showing, hey, when we move, we feel better the rest of that day. And then that's positive reinforcement. When I do this, this good thing happens. And then she'll be more motivated to do that throughout the week. Again, very helpful in getting stress down. Journaling is another protocol. But if she's doing nothing right now and she has no, interest, we could preach the whole L5 method. But if she has no interest in making significant changes, just start with stress and movement. Like you said, those should be the two smallest of the huge rocks, especially when it comes to some type of autoimmune issue.
Preach, I agree. And like you said, you can't force her to do anything, but if you can kind of be that person, like, hey, do you want to go for a walk with me at this place this weekend? Or, hey, share something you're doing to manage your stress, and don't even like suggest that she does it. Just kind of share that this is what you're doing and you noticed this positive change, and kind of just be that leader for her without being preachy, if that makes sense.
At the end of the day, though, just to kind of close this off, like you can't make somebody do anything. Like I understand you care about them greatly. They've gotten into this position, and if they don't want to take steps to see that improvement, like you have to support them to a point without beating. Like you can continue to support them, but just without beating yourself up. Like, oh, this is getting worse. They're not doing any of the things. There's only so much hand holding you can do. So just while you support them, just stay cognizant of this isn't your fault. They're only going to do what they're going to do.
Crystal said, I do physique 5 days per week and was wondering what the appropriate amount of cardio would be for muscle growth and fat loss in a calorie deficit.
Whatever you can recover from. So if you're feeling good, you can up it a little bit. Standard guidelines, 150 minutes of moderate intensity exercise throughout the week, 75 minutes of vigorous. Very few people are actually touching those thresholds. And I would argue that you don't necessarily need to be that high if you are, for example, you're in physique, you're doing 5 lifting days a week. So a great balance if you can recover from this, especially being in a deficit. So again, pay attention to biofeedback, but 3 days of 20 minutes a week, steady state. If you want to mix in a 10-minute hit session and see how you feel, just the first thing you're going to notice is sleep or overall energy levels throughout the day. If those things start plummeting, then we're not recovering well enough. So we're either not taking enough dedicated rest days, or calories are to a point where they're a bit too low to recover from that. So you can scale back a little bit. But a fantastic place to be would be 3 20-minute steady state. So you're minimizing, the overall intensity of that cardio. So you're still going to be able to recover well. If you can space it away from the lifting sessions, super. Like put one meal in between your lift and your cardio. If you need to stack it at the end of the workout, it's not the end of the world. So just some considerations to think about there. And those are your general guidelines for what to aim for if you can recover well enough.
Ellie asked us, could you talk about the differences between simple and complex carbs? Is one superior? How do you choose the right carb source? All the things, please.
So simple and complex in a very simple manner, explanation. Simple is going to be your simple sugars. So they digest more quickly. They tend to have a higher glycemic, or they spike the blood sugars faster. So
sugar, honey, syrup, fruits, white breads, white bread items, candy, soda, fruit juice, all those things.
Complex carbs are going to be the slower digesting forms of carbohydrates. Typically, those are the ones that you're going to have with your whole grains and your fiber. Less of a spike on the blood sugar. So this isn't good versus bad. Like a lot of times you're going to hear people paint simple sugars in a negative light. Especially fruit for whatever reason, which is silly. The fruit is not the same thing as going and drinking a soda. And it's not doing the same thing when it comes to your blood sugars. When there are simple sugars consumed with quality nutrients, like in a banana, in an apple, which are higher carb, simple carb fruits, they're still digested a bit slower. You're still processing those nutrients, so there are good things happening. It's not the same as a Snickers, as a bag of Skittles. So don't throw all simple carbs into the same bucket. Even with complex carbs, you can have an ultra processed thing like what's the 30 carb bar or 30 grams of fiber bar? That is it a fiber one? So things like that.
Yeah, or Quest bars are
they're going to market these things as super healthy because they're loaded with fiber, but they're borderline ultra processed. So it's not good versus bad, simple versus complex. They're just two different types of carbohydrates. They are absorbed slightly differently in the body, but as long as we're consuming from whole food, nutrient dense options 90% of the time, this is less of a factor.
Yeah, and simple carbs are a great thing to have like pre-workout. That they're fast digesting, and like wow, I cannot talk today either. If you wake up early and work out, that's typically like what I'm reaching for. If I'm looking for fuel before a long run or before a lift for me, they're just gonna be the most optimally digested in that time frame. So it's giving you that energy faster than a complex carb or a protein source or a fat source. Sunny said her and her husband share a page, and I always see Blake first, but her name is Honey. She said, I love the breakdown on the podcast of how you each would program 2, 3, 4, 5 days of working out. I'd love to hear your thoughts on how you schedule cardio with the lifting programs. Are you doing cardio on your off days from lifting or on lifting days?
Right now, it is a flip of the coin. Like it's when I can fit it in. I know you can speak to that for yourself in a minute, but I like to do them on the same days for at least a couple of my cardio sessions, but I will space them out just because we're home. That's not the most efficient way, but when I can, that's what I'm doing. I'll do 2 on a training day with a meal in between them. And then ideally, if I can get a third in, like wonderful. But optimal is not always the norm right now. Like we got to do what we got to do. We got to mix it in. Cardio in and of itself is just down for me right now. I'm focused on just getting my 4 lifting days in. Anything else I can get on top of that is gravy. And that's just accepting the season of life that we're in. I'm focusing on movement, so we're still getting 12 to 17,000 steps a day. Like we're moving, we get outside with the kids. But as far as taking a dedicated session to cardio, like that's definitely taking a hit. So depending on your goals, manipulate training days. So to make this more broad scope and less what I'm doing, if you want to get more training days, more running days in, and you want to scale it back to 2 lifting days a week, 3 lifting days a week, like play with that. If that's a season of life that you're in, that's what you're enjoying, that's still fantastic. You're getting in more than most people are. So just kind of leverage that as far as priorities and how many lifting days you want per week and overall training days and when to stack them. For those who are lifting 4 days a week and they want to do those cardio sessions on their own dedicated days, just take that 7th day off. So you're lifting for 4, you've got 2 running days dedicated, and maybe you do mix and match and throw one, double on top of one of those days. There's no wrong way to do it. Again, I'm gonna point back to recovery. As long as you are recovering well enough week over week, you feel good, biofeedback isn't tanking, you're consuming enough to replenish, what you're utilizing and moving towards your goals. There's 1,000 different ways to get to the same end result.
Yeah, honestly, it's looked different in every season for me. I haven't done any cardio yet postpartum. I was actually thinking about hopping on the bike today, but
don't go looking for a Peloton class because that shit's canceled.
Oh, you canceled it again?
Again? Oh, why did I cancel it? Because we haven't touched it in 3 or 4 months.
I just had a baby.
Even before you wanted
I had
it back.
a 9-pound human sitting on my bladder. So you try to do a Peloton with that.
I'm just saying.
I was about to go out there today.
Begged for it back, and you used it for 2 weeks. It's gone.
As I grew your child, that's what I get. Yeah, it's honestly looked different in every season, Sunny. So when I was running a lot, it was a lot of double days of where I would just stack it on a lift day just because my running volume was higher and I was still lifting 4 days per week. So I kind of had to do that if I wanted to take at least one rest day. Other seasons of life, I would do them separately. So it really just depends what fits your schedule best. I would say there was really no difference in how it impacted me. It just depends on what your schedule looks like. Melissa said she has some supplement questions. Number 1, collagen. What are your thoughts? Is it worth it? Any brands you might recommend? I'm going to say no. What do you say? And this is as some. Do you recommend collagen first of all?
I'm not anti-collagen.
I'm not anti it. It's not going to hurt you, but I personally, I've taken it multiple times now, and I just haven't seen enough of a benefit from it.
It's also not this huge. You're going to see this benefit now. Your hair is going to be glowing. Your skin's going to be glowing. Your nails are going to be so strong. It's over time, and it could be beneficial for your joints and your skin health and your gut lining. And I personally prefer bone broth, so I'll get my collagen from bone broth. I was doing Pacific Foods organic. Now I'm doing the Kettle and Fire, the one that tastes like soup. It's delicious. So I do that first thing in the morning fasted, or breaking my fast with that. And it's been tremendous for my stomach and all the BS that I've dealt with over the years. So that's my version of it. As far as like brands, we've taken Vital Proteins.
Yeah. I mean, I probably wouldn't supplement with it again, but I would do bone broth for sure. And then number 2, she said sucrosomial magnesium. Can you help clarify what this is and why it might be superior compared to other magnesium forms, or maybe it's not? I looked it up if you don't know what it is. Do you know what it is?
Never heard of that.
I'd never heard of it either, and I'm assuming it's a new
Marketing.
brand that people are
Yeah.
pushing.
Like what's the creatine that they started put not started, but they've been
I
pushing
don't
as
know.
superior.
It not monohydrate. It
Not
was
monohydrate, the new one that's like, oh, it's easier on your stomach and it's super concentrated and it's better in lower doses.
yeah. I don't
Meanwhile,
know.
creatine monohydrate continues to be the gold standard. All the research is done on creatine monohydrate. So just
Well,
be very careful with the marketing terms.
I looked up what this claims to do, and it says sucrosomial. The coating of it is sucrosomial, and that protects the magnesium as it passes through the digestive tract, allowing for better absorption in the intestines. It's supposedly gentler on the stomach compared to other forms like magnesium oxide. So that might be something if you are somebody who struggles with stomach issues with magnesium. And then it just says efficient cellular delivery. But I personally think it might be, I mean, not to say that it doesn't work, but I'm assuming it's probably more expensive than other forms of magnesium. So if you are somebody who has a very sensitive stomach and other forms have not worked well for you, is this worth a try? Sure. But I would not say that it's something that's like the new gold standard of magnesium.
When it does come to the gold standard magnesium, that's typically going to be your magnesium glycinate and citrate. So I've never heard of the whatever you just said.
And glycinate is supposed to be easier in your stomach too, right? Compared to citrate.
They should all be fine as long as you're doing it in a moderate dose. If you're doing too much, then it's going to have a laxative effect, especially with citrate, yes. So glycinate's a bit easier, but those are your two gold standards.
Yeah, supplements are always, we err on the side of caution, especially with new ones, because I know there's a lot of like the collagen, like the Amra or whatever is going around right now. A lot of influencers are
Armor.
pushing that. Arma, whatever. See, you can't even rely on me to say it right. So, anyway, just be cautious. Understand that with some supplements, generally, they're being paid to promote these things if it's coming from a larger account. And at the end of the day, no supplement is necessary. Not anyone. Can they be helpful? Sure, but they're not necessary.
The key to marketing is how are you different? How are you better? So people will invent reasons to answer those questions a certain way. Just be very aware of that, especially in the supplement industry.
All right, Apolline said 1 week before a 10K race, should I modify slightly what I'm eating, increasing glucides and reducing fiber? My race is at 1 p.m. What is the best meal plan for that day? I would not change a dang thing, or too much rather, of what you're eating before race week, because if you've never changed your diet like that, you just don't know how your body's going to respond. So I personally would not suggest reducing fiber too much, because then what happens if you reduce it so much that your digestion is totally off on race day and you're just feeling super bloated and not great. So I would try to keep things as normal as possible when it comes to your nutrition. If you want to decrease it a little bit the night before, sure. But if you're happy with how your digestive system is feeling and with your fiber intake, I wouldn't change it. Your race is later in the day, so I would just plan on having, you can load up on some good carbs that morning. It's at 1 p.m. So, I mean, depending on what time you wake up, you could probably fit in two meals and a little snack. But again, I wouldn't like overly stress it. It's a 10K. It's not like you're running a marathon where fueling really matters a lot more. I would just focus on having, a balanced breakfast and then maybe a higher carb little mini lunch or a snack before the race. Don't go nuts. Last question of the day. Jocelyn said, I unfortunately have had to forego deadlifts due to a back injury. Would love to know your suggestions on the most effective moves I can do in replacement of deadlifts. So obviously hard to answer without really knowing what the injury is. I'm not sure.
With the back, like, are you not doing anything spine loaded like a squat?
That's what, yeah, I'm hesitant to answer because of that, but like, are you just talking about barbell conventional deadlifts, or can we do like a B stance deadlift, or can we do maybe an RDL and decrease range of motion a little bit? Like, it kind of, we need to know a little bit
Trap
more.
bar. Trap bar could be a nice sub, a little easier on the back, heavier on the legs. But assuming anything, spinal compression, spinal loaded is out, can we leg press? What kind of dumbbell held movements can we do? Can we do walking lunges with the dumbbells? Can we do extensions and curls, leg extensions, leg curls? Um,
At the
Literally,
end of the
any
day,
any dumbbell variation is probably Cossack squats. Any dumbbell variation is going to be beneficial and set you up nicely if you can get back to deadlifts down the road.
yeah, at the end of the day, when it comes to injury in certain movements, like understand you guys, you don't have to do any specific exercise to see progress. Like we have so many different options when it comes to exercise selection. So just keep in mind, like if you've always done deadlifts and for some reason you can't do them anymore, like there's 10 other things you can do in replace of that to still maintain your muscle mass, see progress, and feel good. So we're not losing all of our gains by not being able to do one specific movement. All right, that is the end of the questions of the day.
Little housekeeping, guys. For those of you who may be able to build some momentum, you typically hit a roadblock, speed bump. Not sure why. We did just launch this fun little quiz. Takes 60 seconds. Answer, I think it's 5 questions. Literally take you less than a minute. And it'll identify what your current roadblock is. Could be time, could be overwhelm, could be dealing with, the overwhelming information out there and lack of a plan, things along those lines. So clarifying it is step 1. We'll also give you a resource to work through that. So some really quick, simple steps, as well as an action plan to work through that. So maybe you are doing all the right things, but kind of resolving this hidden roadblock in a sense is going to help you elevate to the next level. So we'll put that the link to that in this description here. It's free. Everything you get with that is free. It'll also add you to our nurture sequence there, where we're not selling you anything on there. It's just straight value, little tips, expert guidance, giving you those nudges along the way. You will also be the first to know about when Project B launches. So we will be doing the launch in phases. We'll get a beta out first, and we're going to be easing in users to this new thing, this project. We're close. I'm going to stop there before I give too much away, but we'll be launching that in phases. So those who are on this nurture sequence, who are already getting this value, there's no reason to not be on it. If you're enjoying this podcast, you're a regular listener, take the fun quiz, identify that roadblock, use that resource, and we'll keep sending you fun stuff, and we'll notify you when Project B is coming close. Also, 3-episode rule. If you've been listening beyond those 3 episodes, you're probably getting value from this podcast. So all we ask is that you just leave us a quick 5-star review. If you feel inclined to do so, you can share it on social media, tag us. We greatly, greatly appreciate it. Our mission here is to provide free resources to become your trusted resource for all things health and fitness on your specific journey. So if this is helping you, it's probably going to help somebody else. So that allows us to expand this audience and allow it to reach that person who may not have otherwise found it. So that's your only role in this community, is to keep spreading the good vibes. We greatly appreciate that. And then as far as what we do, if you guys are looking for any more specific help down the road, we do have the SDE Method app for those of you who are just busy humans and you're confused about training and you want something specific to follow. That's going to give you science-backed routines. They're also very efficient. Some of those are 20 to 30 minutes upwards. I don't think any of these programs are really more than 45 minutes max, and we're all seeing great results. We've got a ton of members in there, so that's a fun community. And then our premium offer is the one-on-one health coaching. So if you guys ever do get completely stuck, you feel like you've tried all the things, you don't know what to do next, you need an expert in your corner for a certain period of time just to get you over that hump, build that momentum, really teach you about what you need to be doing on an individual level. That is what coaching is for. We have the best team in the industry. Their credentials are through the roof. This is not just your team of fitfluencers who want to, sling coaching on the side. We've got RDs, we've got doctors, pre and postnatal certs, CSCS, everything in between. Like all the great things that you want to see from the expert that's in your corner. Having those resources, having those tools. We are there to guide you. Nothing's cookie cutter. We do an onboarding call to make sure we're a good fit. We're going to pair you with your perfect coach. And then they're going to work with you on individualizing your specific protocols, your specific protocols, so that it's not just doing this one thing that should work for everybody. We know all the things that do work and are very helpful. It's about pairing that with your current phase of life. What can you actually do? What can you commit to? What can you be consistent with? So for those who've been listening and wondering what we do besides hang out and talk twice a week, that's a quick pitch. But you don't need to use any of those things. Those are just available to you. We have free resources on the site in addition to podcasts and the content we put out on social media. So again, just being here, we greatly appreciate you guys. This is where we're going to wrap it up. Where can they find you?
I'm at Alessandra Skutnik.
I'm at Josh Skutnik.
Everything else you need is linked in the show notes.